Hi, I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Poultry Health Today, and with me is Carl Heater. He's a veterinarian and also the Global Technical Services Director for Poultry at Zoetis. Carl, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Joe.
Carl, it seems like a good week to talk about biosecurity. Last week there was a report out of California about avian influenza. Did we let our guard down? What do you think happened?
Biosecurity is a tough issue on the farm. This is a classic example of a system that probably all on paper, all the procedures were probably in place. Probably all the things that needed to happen were probably identified, but obviously something went wrong because the influenza that they had in this flock came from wild birds. We know that because the USDA has been doing testing on wild birds and had picked it up in the area. And so here's a situation where obviously somehow the virus got from outside the building inside the building, and once it got inside the building, the birds got sick.
And it all comes down to biosecurity.
It all comes down to biosecurity. I mean, the basics of biosecurity, everyone in live production kind of knows it. It's, keeping what out and what's in. And the problem is, even though it's a very simple thing to say and a simple concept, the day-to-day activities actually make that happen can be really tough. It's kind of like losing weight, it's simple, but not that easy. So
you really have to stay on top of it, as we all know.
It's an everyday kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Now, you've visited a lot of farms, and I know that you've worked in the layer industry before too. What would be the one or two most common lapses in biosecurity that would be out there?
I think in general, it's just workers going in and out of the building. People get pretty lax because, I walked in and out of this house, for the last 365 days this year and nothing happened. So why would it be any different today or tomorrow? And so, and that's basically the most amount of traffic going in and out of the buildings. The other thing is making sure that wild birds can't get in or into the barn. So making sure that you have screens up and you don't let free-flying birds fly into the buildings. That's a real critical step too.
Now, biosecurity is a concern not just with avian influenza, but other diseases as well.
Yeah, across the country, you've had LT outbreaks in the southeast. There's mycoplasma in the Midwest, and then just when you start looking at it on a more global scale, salmonella prevention is technically a biosecurity issue because a chicken doesn't necessarily if you have a healthy, clean breeding source, when they come to a barn, they don't have salmonella, and they won't get it unless they get introduced to it, and so it's an everyday issue that farmers are dealing with.
Are there any new tools available for biosecurity, or is it pretty much looking at foot baths and some of the other things that you normally see on farms?
It's pretty, it's pretty simple stuff. It's basic cleaning, disinfection. It's good practices like either changing your shoes when you go into the house, or putting boots on over your shoes, or having really good dip pans. The real critical thing is to take a hard look at your program, and maybe you think you're doing it all right, but odds are there's gaps in the system. And so take a hard look and be critical of it, and make sure that your employees know exactly what's expected from them and understand the repercussions if it doesn't go well.
I was going to say employee training must be critical to the success of any kind of biosecurity program.
They've been a lot of studies and on biosecurity and different even personality tests to see what kind of people will follow biosecurity programs better, and quite honestly, everyone lapse. It has lapses in it. But the reality is, if you train someone and make them understand the relevance of why they should do certain things, they're much more likely to follow those programs and not take shortcuts. But this high path AI in some ways is a great learning experience, and it's too bad for that particular company and that farm. But hopefully it gets everyone to take notice and to really take a hard look at what's going on. Because quite honestly, I'm sure they didn't do anything horribly wrong, or they didn't think they were doing anything horribly wrong when this happened. And so it's a good time to really take advantage and learn from someone else's unfortunes or mistakes.
It's a wake-up call, that's for sure.
Definitely a wake-up call.
We've been talking to Carl Heater, veterinarian and Global Technical Services Director for Zoetis. Thanks again, Carl.
Thanks, Joe.